Hi there everyone, happy Wednesday. You are watching my weekly Wednesday video series, Smarter Real Estate, and you're looking out the sunroof of a Tesla Model S. This is my loaner car for these couple of days while my car is at the service center for the annual scheduled service. That's part of the warranty. I drive an all-electric vehicle, the Tesla Model X, which you've seen featured a couple of times already in my video series. And today I find myself in Sugar Land, having just finished a closing at the title company. My buyers bought a home in Missouri City in a lovely gated lakefront community. And I'm here to talk about yet another new and very interesting topic this week. I'm Julie Tam, managing broker at Lynn Realty, a brokerage serving generations of clients in the greater Houston area and from around the world since 1981. And you can find me on HAR.com, that stands for Homes and Rentals, as Yao Tam. These videos are shot in one take and are not edited, and I take you along for some of my real estate adventures and also arm you with some practical strategies to be a better and smarter buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord. All right, so this week we are talking about what sellers must disclose to potential buyers about the home they're selling, whether it's a home they live in or they use it as a rental property, whatever it is, they own the home, they must disclose. And this is talking about the law in the state of Texas, but of course, I'm sure other states have pretty similar laws regarding this. This is very important information you're going to want to know whether you're on either side of the transaction right now or in the future. All right, so first of all, it's important to disclose information as a seller because you're protecting yourself, right? There's liability involved if you don't let a potential buyer know if something is wrong with your home or something has happened in your home that you're required by law to disclose. And of course, it helps and protects the buyer because you're disclosing information that they would want to know as they buy the home so that they know what they're buying. There are some exceptions to this rule. For example, if there is a foreclosure and say the bank owns the property, they're not required to fill out a seller's disclosure, disclosing information about the property. They probably don't know anything, but even when you are exempt, you want to disclose any material facts that are negative, any defects that would affect the house or the whatever property it is, okay? And I'm talking specifically about residential today, so I'm going to be focusing on that because that's the type of real estate that I do. And what we use is called a seller's disclosure. This document right here. It's a 6-page document. A new version just came out that must be used for any contracts that are executed starting September 1st, 2019. And it's the Texas Association of Realtors Seller's Disclosure Notice. This is a more detailed version of the seller's disclosure than the one that TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission, or TREC, produces. And so it's better to use this version because you're disclosing more, and disclosing more is always better. It's always better to be more honest, more transparent, and give more information because it covers yourself and it also informs and helps the other party to the transaction, which would be the buyer if you're the seller. All right, so let me tell you some of the things that you would find that you would need to disclose on this form. And then, of course, if there's anything else outside the form that you feel relevant, it's best to disclose it. So the first page is mostly kind of boring stuff, right? You're really just listing out all the features of your home, saying if they're gas or electric, how many, garage door openers are in there, how many remotes go with the garage, does the home have an emergency escape ladder that stays with the home, cable TV wiring, things like that. The second page starts to get a little bit more interesting, all right? So you're going to be disclosing any defects or malfunctions when it comes to certain things like the foundation, interior walls, plumbing systems, roof, etc. And then also if you're aware of any conditions on the home. Is it located in a historic district? Are there any wetlands on the property? Wood rot, settling, radon gas? There's a bunch of questions, dozens of them about that. Now, what is particularly new is in Houston because of Hurricane Harvey, then the entire state is now adopting this because beyond the Houston area, we've had a lot of flooding, right? So there's a whole section about that, about what type of floodplain is the property located within. And of course, you also have to disclose if there's been any previous flooding into the property, and not just into the house itself, but even onto the property, if it was, your grass in the front yard or the backyard, were any other structures flooded? Was the garage flooded? Things like that. Also, if you've ever filed any insurance claims and that maybe you didn't use the money to make the repairs. And when you get to page 4, there are, of course, some other maybe less savory, I guess, topics that some people may not want to discuss, but they must be disclosed. So if there's any divorce procedures or lawsuits that would affect the property, and also if there's been any deaths on the property caused by things other than natural causes, suicide, or accidents unrelated to the condition of the property. You're also not supposed to disclose deaths that are due to AIDS or HIV. Of course, you can disclose deaths that have to do with natural causes or suicide if you want to, but you're not required to do that. You do need to disclose, however, if there's been a murder, for example, or if there's been a death due to something on the property, like someone's drowned in the pool, or something fell, for example, a light fixture fell on someone and killed them. I will tell you, there was an interesting situation where I showed a house in the Clear Lake, League City area to a buyer several years ago, and we were in the home for quite a while, right? Because they really liked the home and they wanted to make an offer on it. So we were looking at everything again and discussing it, and then we left. And you know what? This was a foreclosure, and so again, like I mentioned, the foreclosing entity, the bank, doesn't have to just fill out a seller's disclosure, but there was something indicated that there was a rumor of a murder on the property. And this I found out when I did the research into it. Now, it was not just outright disclosed, but I went back and looked up all the old listings for that property. And that's something that I do for my clients. Not every realtor does. And I discovered this, right? So then I thought, well, what do you mean by rumor, right? It either happened or it didn't. Let's find out. Putting on my old TV news reporter anchor hat, I spent over 10 years in that career, I decided to call the police department up and ask about it, given the address of the house. And they said, yes, in fact, there was a domestic situation where the husband murdered his wife in the home. And they even told me where in the home it happened. And of course, having spent a lot of time in that home, we were in all the rooms and everywhere, looking at every detail, opening drawers and cabinets, everything. So we definitely spent a long time in there. And unfortunately, that's something unsavory that happened in that home. And then when I told my buyers, they decided they did not want to make the offer on that home. They ended up buying a different home instead with me. Sometimes someone may not mind. Some people actually like haunted homes. There are buyers out there like that who specifically just think that's really cool to live in a home like that where something has happened, maybe a well-known crime or murder in the past. But most people, they don't like that. So they'd want to know if something like that happened in that home. All right. And then going to page 5, it actually talks about inspection reports. So if your home has had an inspection report done within the last 4 years, you are required to disclose that and provide that inspection report to prospective buyers. Now, that is if you've received the inspection report. So let's say I'm trying to sell a home and the buyer does an inspection or has an inspection done by a licensed professional inspector in the state of Texas. And then the buyer sends me the inspection report or sends my real estate agent the inspection report. Now I'm required to disclose it and show it to future buyers. But if that buyer never sent me the inspection report, then I don't have to. I can say that an inspection was performed, but I don't have the report to provide. One other thing, homes that were built before 1978 are required to have a lead-based paint disclosure. It's an addendum where you disclose if you have any knowledge that there has been lead-based paint in the home. And of course, any details regarding that. Most contracts I see, the seller actually doesn't know because they haven't owned the home since the beginning. They've bought it since 1978, so they don't even know if there was lead-based paint prior to that, unless the previous seller disclosed it to them and they perhaps owned the home before 1978 or found out about it from the seller prior to that if the previous seller did not have the home prior to 1978. So that's just one other little tidbit. And then, of course, the very final last page is just kind of, general information. It's helpful if the seller can provide companies that they're using for utilities and cable TV, internet, phone, things like that, to just be helpful to the future buyer. But that's not as critical of information. So the moral of the story is you want to disclose, because in our world, it's very litigious. We don't want anyone to get into trouble. So as a seller, you want to let the buyer know everything you possibly can. Don't think, well, I don't want to disclose this because then they're not going to like the home. I'm not going to be able to sell it, because you're going to get in trouble later because they're going to find out. or a neighbor is going to tell them, even if they don't find out in the home directly. So it's better to disclose. It's just the right thing to do. But if you're not interested in doing the right thing, then at least know that you can be caught and get into some serious trouble for not doing it. So if that's incentive, then take that as good advice. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next Wednesday. And please do like and follow me here on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching. And comments, send me a message. Let me know what ideas or feedback you have and any suggestions for future videos. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.